everyone, so the drawing we'll be working on next is your nose drawing, and just like with your eye drawing, you'll need your eraser, tortillon, and both of your drawing pencils. You can use the same sketchbook paper and just work right underneath your eye drawing if you like, or you can go on to another page, it's up to you. The handout I'll be following once again is this handout. We'll be doing step 1, step 2, and then step 3 together. If you'd like a copy of this handout, again, it's on the Drawing Bootcamp module under Eye, Nose, Mouth, drawing exercise number 7. So let's get started. Just like before, we're going to be doing a contour line drawing to start out. This drawing is going to look a little strange at first, but just stick with me and I promise it'll turn out in the end. So the first thing we'll do is we're going to draw a straight line down, about 2 or 3 inches long. I'm using my HB pencil for this initial drawing. I'm going to do another line parallel that has a little bit of a jut out on the end. That's going to be the end of our nose. Then we're going to draw the side of the nose over here, a little line coming down, coming around. Do the underside of a nostril, like so. And we'll do the other side over here. It's almost like a backward C shape coming down like this. We'll do another line for that nostril over here. A couple little lines in the middle. I don't like this curve. I'm going to fix that for myself right now. And just like you, if you find that you don't like the way something looks, you can always erase it, right? That's what erasers are for. So I'm going to refine this just a little bit for myself. A little bit more like that. That looks a little bit better now. So I have my nostril 1, nostril 2, and this is going to be kind of an interesting shape here. I'm going to come around. I'm actually going to continue this. I'm drawing nice and light. I'm going to put this around and up here, and you might be thinking right now, what is she doing? I promise that line will come in handy later. And then we'll put another line up here, and just another light line over here. And we have our contour drawing for our nose. I know it looks a little strange at the beginning, but I promise when we add some value into this, it'll look correct in the end. So that was it. We've already done step 1, not too bad. Next thing we're going to be doing is adding in some value. So I'm going to use that 4B pencil, and the first thing I'm going to do is shade the left side. Again, I'm going to hold that pencil way out here on the end so I can get a nice light shade. I'm almost holding that pencil parallel to the paper. I don't want to keep this line. We don't have lines on our nose. We just have edges of shadow. So I'm going to take this nice and flat, and I'm just going to soften this edge a little bit to make it so it's more of a shadow. And I'm going to shade in here. And notice how lightly I'm shading right now. And I'm going to do a little bit of shading on the left side of this nose also. This nose has the light coming from the right side, so all of our shadows are going to be on this side of the nose. One of the most important things about drawing a nose is we want to have a different value here, here, and here, because our nose has 3 planes, the front and 2 sides. If we shade both of these the same value, that nose is going to immediately look flat. So we're going to be really careful to have a different value here, then here, then here. So I've put just a little bit of value in there. Now I'm going to use my tortillon, and I'm going to start blending these values. Again, this left side of the nose is going to be our darkest side. So I'm going to blend those values. I'm going to make sure that I keep this edge. I want it to be nice and crisp. I'm not going to get sloppy and go over into the middle part. I'm going to keep that edge. And as I move out, I'm just going to let this value kind of fade out a little bit. Notice I'm making like a light value scale there. We're going to come down this way, keeping this nice and dark, this little ridge here. And now you'll see that this little line I had before is kind of the edge of my shadow. That kind of lets me know how far my shadow is going to go. I'm going to darken up this side of the nose as well. Again, if you're thinking right now, this looks nothing like a nose, that's okay, just trust me. Noses are pretty challenging because they don't have a lot of outlines on them, so a lot of it is just shading and getting our values in. So again, I want my darkest value right along this line and my darkest value right along this line, and both of those kind of fade out into a light gray. And then I'll do a little bit of shading right in here as well. I want to keep this nice and light. However, this is the side of the nose and it does catch a little bit of light because it does come out a little bit, so don't let that get too dark. Now I'm going to take my HB, or my 4B pencil one more time, and I'm going to shade underneath this nostril. I'm pushing down relatively hard. This is my darkest value. Notice how I'm not coloring it in like an oval, right? Our nostrils don't go straight back into our head. They actually go up into our nasal cavity. So that sharp shadow edge should really just be on the top, and then that's going to fade out underneath. So I'm going to get just a little bit of value, and then I'm going to pull that down and let it fade out. And we already have a little ledge there that kind of lets us know where that shadow is going to go. But again, you want that darkest edge to be just like a little rainbow line at the top. That's kind of where your nostril is going to go and start. So it looks starting to look a little bit like a nose. Now I'm going to take my tortillon. I'm not going to add any more graphite to it. I'm just going to use the graphite that's on my tortillon. I'm going to shade in this center part here. So I'm going to do small circles, very, very light. I don't want it to be the same shade of gray over here. I want these again to be different. So I'm going to keep this nice and light. And I want this to be kind of rounded here on the bottom. I often tell people that we kind of have a ball of cartilage on the end of our nose. This might remind you even a little bit of that sphere shading exercise that we did, exercise number 6. We want that to be a little bit rounded here on the bottom. I'm going to pull a little bit of that graphite down here into the bottom part as well under the nose. Oops. I'm going to let that fade out here at the top. All these values should really just be fading into your paper. We don't want any harsh edges on the sides either. And then I'm going to start doing some graphite over here now. So this is another area where light gets trapped on the side of our nostril. So I'm going to use my 4B. I'm not making any harsh lines here. I just want to take a little bit of value, holding that pencil parallel to the paper. Nice and light, just put some value down. And I'm also going to put some again in that nostril. My harshest, sharpest edge will be at the top. And then I'm going to let that fade out. I'm going to darken this one up just a little bit more too, as long as I'm here. And take that tortillon. Start shading again. We're not making this a black oval. We want it to kind of fade out a little bit underneath. Same over here. We're going to let this fade out. Into our edges out here. I'm going to clean this edge up a little bit down here, and I want to do just a little bit more shading underneath this ball of our nose. That's where light kind of gets captured, gets stuck. A little bit around that shape. I'm going to do a little bit more work underneath the nose here also. So one of the things you might notice is we have that little indent under our nose. We can go in and draw that line if we want to. Just a little bit, and then use our tortillon and to shade that sort of indentation in. So I'm sure you're realizing when you work with a nose, you're really working with a lot of different values. You don't want to have them all the same shade of gray. You want a lot of different shades of gray. I'm also going to come up to where this line is. I'm just going to soften that a little bit as well. Again, we don't want to have a harsh outline there. So to clean this up, we're nearing the end now. I'm going to erase any lines that I see. So I see a line right here. I'm going to erase that because again, that nose shouldn't have any lines on it. It should just be 3 separate values: the side of our nose, the front of our nose, and the other side of our nose. And to get those eraser bits off the paper, you can use your finger lightly or use a paper towel to wipe it, or that paintbrush that you have. I'm going to erase that line a little. This line. When I erase, I'm pressing very lightly. Again, we just don't want any outlines on here. We want it to be values that just fade into space. The last thing I'm going to do here is I'm going to punch up those dark values. That's what's really going to take this into looking a little bit more realistic and three-dimensional. So I'm really going to punch up these values on the left side. So I'm going to use my 4B pencil and I'm going to put some harsher, darker values in here, especially down the side of the nose, like this. And over here on this edge of the nose. That's where light really gets trapped, is right over there on the side of our nose. Same with over here. I'm going to punch that value up just a little bit more. And same with this edge too. Again, be thinking about where would highlights fall, where would shadows fall. This isn't that different actually from the sphere exercise. We want to keep our highlights nice and bright white. We want to make our shadows nice, rich, and dark. That contrast is what's going to make this look realistic. Again, using my Tortillion to blend these values out. I don't want them all one shade of gray. Don't let yourself work too hard with these long pencil strokes. We want short, little, really light blends. And you can see that took our drawing to a much more realistic space as we made those dark values in there just a little bit stronger. And small circles with your Tortillion. When you're done, and you almost have like a round, every time you work at the end of the nose, you kind of want to work in those rounded circle type lines to get that shape. Notice again how I have a light side where the light is going to hit my highlight over here. I might even bring this shadow in just a little bit more to kind of define where that nose is kind of coming out. So my highlighted, my mid-tone grays, and then my dark edges. Spend a little time just kind of refining. Again, you can always erase if you notice you get too dark with something. Go back in with your eraser. You can always erase out those highlights if needed, and then go back in and soften them. Noses are definitely one of the harder things to draw, again, because they don't have any edges on them. So it's really just working with your shadows, those different values, getting lots of contrast. And there you have it. There's your nose. Nice job, you guys.